Looking at a few circular nimbus and cirrostratus clouds out there on the eastern sky of Jamaica, bringing us in to the wonderful segment that we call the headlines at 6:21 here in Kingston, 7:21 on the eastern seaboard in the United States. Wherever you are, good morning to you.
Good morning.
It's now time for our beautiful girl. I don't know why I just feel like calling her. She just have an Asian thing. Hi, GK. You're looking kind of Asian today. GXI. GK.
Thank you.
GK.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Ni hao. Ni hao.
Ni hao.
Great morning. What kind of cloud did it say out of the
Nimbus stratus.
I saw some cirrocumulus and cirrostratus.
Stratus clouds, yeah. Good morning to all the geologists, meteorologists.
Yeah.
You know, good morning to the pilots. Because pilots got to know this.
Yes.
really did
But you learned it in sixth form geo.
Yeah, in geo.
Yeah.
Sixth form Japanese.
Fifth form geo.
Yeah, of course.
Oh yeah, I did it in
Yeah, I love
sixth form.
geo. I was a geo girl.
Yeah?
Loved it.
Nice.
The meandering, the seashore, the wash. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And backwash.
Yeah.
The swash and backwash.
Yeah. Soil erosion. Was good. I love the seasons as well. The different coniferous trees and you know what I mean? Yeah, you have one banyan tree like it all the water, you know what I mean? Soil.
No, man, you remember the thing them from...
An earthquake is a shock or a series of shocks, which is due to the sudden movement of crustal rocks. This is generated at a point within the crust, which is known as the
epicenter.
All right.
Yo, when you beat the book.
When your mother spend her last and send you go class, never you ever play. It's a competitive world for low budget people, spending the time while earning the nickel, with no regard to who it may tickle. My cup is full to the brim. I could go on and on. The full has never been told. When I play with school,
wow.
On a roll. When I play with it, girl. Guns never get picked.
Wow.
Crazy.
Wow.
You probably all remember the page where that
I
did
do.
the
I actually do.
Oh, you're swatting. That bad.
You have to know the things. You understand me?
Sometimes them say when you swat you don't remember, but we
No,
see
because I'm not a swatter. I know the theory. I understand the theory, but I want to write it in a particular way.
Yes.
So I'm very precise and
Yes.
meticulous and how I present it, but I understand it fully.
And that's a beautiful segue into our first story.
Who knew? Asking about a cloud. Would have taken us here. All right, so let's jump right in. Changes to be made to PEP exam. Speaking of studying.
I got to tell you.
Speaking of students, so changes to be made to PEP exam. The primary exit profile, the PEP exam, is being reviewed for possible changes. Education Minister Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon says the exam, designed to improve students' academic and critical thinking skills, might be restructured. While visiting schools in Clarendon, the minister noted that the 2024 PEP exam saw a high placement rate with 9 out of 10 students getting their first choice school. She also highlighted the impressive performance of students with 60% ranking in the proficient or highly proficient category. The minister encouraged the students to focus on making the most of their education, emphasizing that they are equipped to face challenges and have a bright future ahead of them. So it's interesting that they're restructuring.
No, I don't know. The story doesn't say that they're restructuring. The headline says that changes are coming. The story says that they're doing the necessary groundwork or canvassing to establish whether or not changes are necessary, but
I know that would be. I know a lot of parents right now. What a pop up! Change it. You know, some people say, "Well, we can't go back to common entrance." What was wrong with maths, English, and mental ability?
Well, I know, and that's a
with the bubble them.
I am of the view.
With the number 2 pencil.
I am of the view that when we changed from common entrance to GSAT, we did not make the right change. I think PEP is a better exam than GSAT.
Okay. Why you say that?
Because GSAT, in my opinion, placed a heavy burden on acquiring knowledge and regurgitating that knowledge. You see that thing called mental ability in common entrance?
Yes.
I think it was glaringly missing from GSAT.
Okay.
Now PEP has come to now reverse that, and there's a heavy emphasis in PEP.
But you reverse it way back, Dennis, though.
No,
it's a lot. It's a lot.
Hold on, no, the volume
it's a
of
lot,
work
Dennis.
but
it's
people,
a lot.
hold on, no, all right.
On child and parents.
No, I agree, but the structure of the common entrance exam, many people would say it very unfair, and it was and it was people would say it's very traumatizing because it's because
you only have one shot.
Yeah, you just one shot and go. You understand? And not everybody performs in exams like that.
Yeah.
Well, if you have grade 4 and so it's a build up.
Exactly. So the emphasis on continuous education and hitting certain developmental academic markers by a certain time. So you have grade 4 literacy and numeracy tests, and you have certain tests that you're leading
But
up
some people
to.
say it's a prolonged stress because you have stress from grade 4
for years.
Yeah, for years.
For
it's
years.
Like, oh my God, when will the torture end?
No, but I don't think so because again.
But can't go school go play Danish and then and look at Bendong Stocky. Nobody has stress to do.
Hold on, no.
Jeez, Sam. I'm a university, sir.
And I agree.
It's a build volcano.
Hold on, no. When
our solar system. We can't build back the clock with out of the cardboard.
No,
look at
again, I will say that I agree that sometimes you have to wonder. Sometimes you have to wonder why them have learned these like the inner ear and on the eye and whatever. My challenge is sometimes like you know this is was in the GSAT exam or this was in the PEP exam, and you're now in third form and you don't. I ask you about it and you don't know.
Because the brain tired, Dennis. That's the see, they're tired. The by the time I get third form, the brain cells
there's certain mathematics that you learned it in PEP, and why don't you know it now?
Because
but I do believe that the critical thinking and the reading of I am all for it.
True.
I am, because we in the modern world have to prepare our children to be functional in the modern world.
Yes.
And I think that in the modern world where we exist now in an era of misinformation and disinformation, people can be fooled. But people can be easily fooled.
But
and people need to be able to discern and reason and decide this doesn't make sense, this is a trick, this is this is fake,
but it's
this
so funny
is
that you
real.
say that. But then at the same time, here comes ChatGPT and AI, which has also, to some extent, dull that whole critical thinking because now I don't
you don't have to think about
no, I don't have to think about nothing. ChatGPT. Put it in, you know what I mean?
Spits it out for you.
So I'm all for the exam. I do like the critical thinking aspect, but I do think aspects of PEP, it's very onerous and overwhelming for both parent and children. You know what I mean? So
you don't see nothing yet?
What do you mean?
What do you mean?
Me don't see nothing yet.
What do you mean?
Oh, you mean as a parent? As a parent, you know,
as grade 1, you have exam week in grade 1. I mean, I think,
can we go back to cartridge paper days? Can we just go back to the pharmacy and cut out the pictures of the magazines and do it?
Is there a system that's not going to be onerous on the parents and the children, though?
I think it get turned up.
Also, remember...
Even before I became a parent, I was scared of it.
That in the Jamaican education system, it is important for us to know that you also need a mechanism. I don't think it's fair, but it is what we have. A mechanism to place you in high school. And so part of the function of that grade 6 examination is not only to test what you know, but to find a placement, to assign places in the secondary education system. And it's the system that we have. It's not the most equitable, but it is the system that we have.
Pepper fresh, yeah.
Well, let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know about any changes that do come up, and we'll, of course, keep everyone posted.
Yes.
In keeping with education, the National Reading Competition to be launched April, is that 15? It's
Today.
It says that reading maketh a man, and as such, the National Reading Competition 2025 is set to kick off this evening with a launch ceremony at the Kingston and St. Andrew Parish Library. The event will be a star-studded affair featuring key figures from the Ministry of Education and the Jamaica Library Service. Dr. Cassandra, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education, will deliver the keynote address. The launch will be packed with exciting announcements, including the unveiling of a televised quiz finals, a brand new JLS, or Jamaica Library Service mascot, to engage young readers, and the introduction of the 2025 JLS Reading Ambassadors. This year's competition promises to be a powerful force for literacy development, encouraging children and youth to embrace reading, inspiring seniors to continue learning, and shaping future leaders through the transformative power of the written word.
I love that.
One of the best indicators of future success among children?
Their ability, how early they read, their ability to read.
Children who read for pleasure.
And not as punishment. So it comes back also to the parents, because when you say, go take up a book, go read a book, because every time you hear read a book, it's like a punishment. So you develop this resentment for like, you know, some hate reading, you know what I mean? So make reading great. But I really do think that reading, you know, opens the vistas of life, you know what I mean? On the world, to children and to adults too, you know? So I really, really love this, and the Jamaica Library Service is there. I know that everybody, well, a lot of people have their iPads or their tablets or whatever now, but I love the physical book,
Me
TK.
too.
I like to turn the page.
Yes,
I want to hold the book and open it. I don't know.
Me
I
too.
just don't do very well with reading on a tablet. Yeah. I don't know. There's something about having a book in your hand that for me is just the tablet. No, I mean, it not work.
Hey, you know them even have one. So
Yeah,
you
man.
can
Yeah, you can put on your finger. You have things that can keep the book open.
Love it.
You have all these things, but you know, in this, you had mentioned earlier about misinformation, disinformation, and things like that. And I think that one of the most important things you can do, even if you're not the most educated or you don't have the most exposure, reading.
Yes.
When you read 3 different opinions on the same matter, it gives you an understanding that maybe even if you didn't understand it fully, you get a perspective.
You know what I want to do?
Very
I want to big up, as we talk about seniors, I want to big up the seniors. Because back then, Dennis, every man, especially the men too, had a gleaner or a star in their back pocket, and they would read that from cover to cover. You have to read your newspaper and know what is going on. Yes. And so I must big up the seniors for that, you know?
Yeah, so it's a great competition, and we're really, really, really looking forward to it going on year to year.
Lovely.
Thank you very much.
Reading maketh the full man. So read and read all you can. Join the library or buy a book and give it more than just a passing look. Yay.
That jingle, see?
I'm telling you.
The power of a jingle.
From a local.
Still remember it now.
High librarians all across the world, all across Jamaica. Miss McCurdy was my library teacher at Merle Grove High School. One of,
Yeah, big up Mrs. Thomas, Mrs. Elaine Bogey Thomas. My library studies teacher at St. Catherine High School. Well, that's a wrap on the headlines for this morning. Thank you very much, Teeks.
What you say? Jinke. I always say goodbye again.
I don't remember goodbye. But
adios. I know it's not that, but
no, it's not.
yay.
All right, we're gonna take a break. We'll be right back.